Imagine waking up in the year 2525. You stretch your arms, look in the mirror, and see, surprise, still no gray hairs, no wrinkles, just you as young as ever. You're alive, healthy, and full of energy. But here's the strange part. Everyone you know from your old life is long gone. All the faces in the world are new. You wonder, how did I end up living so long? And what happens when humans can live for 500 years or even more? Let's take a fun, easy-to-understand journey through this wild idea. We'll talk about how science makes it possible, what happens to your brain, whether the Earth gets too crowded, how people feel about love and friends, and even some of the odd rules and problems governments might face. First, let's imagine what it would be like to live for 500 years. Think about all the birthdays you'd have. You could see the world change over and over, watch whole cities grow, and maybe even ride in spaceships. But why would humans suddenly live so long? It starts with a field called longevity science. Scientists are always asking, how can we make the body last longer? They study tiny things called cells, which are like building blocks inside you. Usually these cells get old and stop working, just like a toy with old batteries. But with new medicine, magic-like machines, and even special foods, scientists think they can help cells keep working year after year for centuries. Imagine you're stacking blocks to build a tall tower. Normally your tower gets wobbly and falls after a certain height, but what if you had super glue for your blocks? That's what new science hopes to do for your body. Keep it strong so it doesn't wobble or break, even after hundreds of years. If you could live that long, what would you want to do? Learn every instrument, travel to every country, maybe even fly to Mars? But wait, living forever might not be as simple as it sounds. What happens inside your head when you've seen it all? Let's take a quick pause. If you could live for 500 years, what's the first thing you'd want to see in the future? Hold that thought and let's talk about what goes on in your mind. After a few hundred years, your brain might get tired, like when you play with the same toy too many times. This is called mind fatigue. Imagine reading every book, watching every movie, and playing every game twice. Would you still have fun, or would things start to feel boring? Scientists wonder if our brains can handle so many memories. Maybe we'd need brain spring cleaning, like clearing out old files on a computer to make room for new stuff. Or maybe our brains could grow and change, keeping us curious and excited even after centuries. But here's another twist. If you remember everything, would it be harder to make new friends or fall in love again? Would you miss people from your past, or would it be easy to meet new folks every century? Some people think living this long could make you feel a little bit lonely or detached, like a balloon floating away from the crowd. On the other hand, you could become super wise, with stories and advice for everyone you meet. Would you be a lonely superhero or the world's favorite storyteller? If you could remember every detail from hundreds of years, would you want to, or would you rather forget some things to make room for new fun? Now let's talk about what happens when everyone lives longer. If everyone on Earth could live for 500 years, the planet might get crowded. Imagine a birthday party where nobody ever leaves, just more and more people showing up. We'd need bigger cities, more food, and lots more houses. But the Earth has limits, like a jar that can only hold so many cookies. Scientists and leaders would have to think of smart ways to share space, maybe building floating cities, or even moving to other planets. Would living so long be a blessing if you had to wait hundreds of years just to get your own room? And what about jobs and schools? If grown-ups never retire, there might not be enough jobs for everyone. Would kids have to wait a century to get their dream job? Would school last for decades? Maybe people would have lots of different careers in their long lives. Be a teacher for 100 years, then an astronaut, then a chef. Or maybe machines would do more of the work, giving everyone extra time for hobbies and adventures. Here's a question to think about. If you could try every job, what's one thing you'd want to be? Imagine yourself as a pirate, a scientist, and a rock star, all in one lifetime. Now let's peek at how feelings and friendships might change. Living for centuries means you might see many friends and family members come and go. It could be hard to say goodbye so many times. Would people get used to it? Or would they build bigger families and friend groups to keep each other company? Maybe new ways of making friends would pop up. clubs for people who remember the old days, or parties that last for years. Or maybe people would keep a little bit of sadness, but learn to treasure every moment even more. Love and marriage might also change. Would people have one partner for 500 years? Or would love stories have many chapters? Maybe people would write love letters that take decades to finish. Or maybe people would invent new ways to show love and care over such a long life. The world of feelings would certainly get more complicated. Would you feel young at heart even after centuries? Here's something to keep you thinking. If you could choose, would you want your best friend or family to live as long as you? Why or why not? Now let's take a look at the really strange part, rules and governments. If you outlive your own government, things get tricky. Imagine following the same rules as your great-great-great-great-grandparents. Would you have to vote in every election? What about paying taxes for 5 centuries? Laws might get old or confusing, and leaders would have to invent new ways to keep things fair. Maybe people would need special ID cards with hundreds of birthdays listed. Or maybe you'd have to learn history over and over to keep up with all the changes. There could be funny problems too, like who gets to be a king or queen if everyone lives forever? Would there be world records for the oldest person with the most birthdays? And what would happen to family names, or who owns what, after so many generations? Lawyers and judges would be very busy, sorting out all the puzzles that come with such long lives. Now let's wrap things up with a big question. Is living for 500 years the best gift ever, or could it be a little bit scary? On one hand, you'd have so much time to explore, learn, and share with others. You could see the world change, help solve problems, and tell the best stories. On the other hand, it might feel lonely at times, or a little bit tiring, to watch everything and everyone change so many times. Some people think living longer is a dream come true. Imagine getting to see your great-great-great-grandchildren and teach them everything you know. Others think it could be a big challenge with lots of new problems to solve. Maybe the real answer is somewhere in the middle. Life is special because of the people we share it with, no matter how long it lasts. So what do you think? If you could live for 500 years, would you say yes or no? What adventures would you want to have? And what memories would you want to make? Would you be a time traveler, a wise storyteller, or a champion at every sport? The future is full of surprises, and with every new day, we get to choose what kind of story we want to tell. Before we go, one last thing to keep you wondering. If you could send a message to yourself 500 years from now, what would you say? Would you tell a joke, share a secret, or give yourself a big high five? No matter what the future holds, remember, every day, whether it's your first or your 500th, is a brand new adventure. So keep dreaming, keep laughing, and keep exploring. Who knows what you'll discover next?